What if the greatest leader is the one you barely notice? People say, we did it ourselves. No praise, no glory. Just perfect harmony because nothing was forced. Chapter 17 reveals the invisible art of true leadership. Power that dissolves into effortless flow. Stay with me. Let's look in the mirror together. All right, let's get into chapter 17 of the Tao Te Ching here on the Boundless Sovereign YouTube channel. We did it ourselves. The highest rulers were beyond knowledge. Those beneath them were loved and praised. Those lower still were feared. The lowest of all were reviled. Wherever trust is lacking on high, it is lacking below. The Taoist is distant, sparing with words. Whatever is accomplished, whatever occurs. The common folk declare, we did it of our own accord. We did it ourselves. Let's jump into the River Master commentary here from the John Minford version. The highest were true gentlemen, supreme rulers of highest antiquity. They had no name, but an abundance of natural simplicity. Their subjects did not know of them directly, but sensed their existence somewhere high above. Beneath them were the Taoists, loved and praised for inner power, for true benevolence. Beneath these again were rulers feared for devising harsh laws and punishments, reviled for issuing troublesome prohibitions and decrees. When an inferior ruler lacks good faith, subjects in their turn deceive their ruler and are devious. The Taoist rulers of antiquity were never far from the Tao. Whenever something was accomplished, there was great peace and contentment throughout the land, and the folk proclaimed, we did it ourselves. They were oblivious of the simple strength of their rulers' inner power. Here we are. So many times, this chapter actually comes up for me a lot in terms of, I've been in leadership roles probably for the last decade or so. And there are moments where I think, man, I'm doing this myself. But then I realize that yes, not quite, right? In a lot of instances, I was given the opportunity to lead, right, by another leader. Another leader saw in me the ability to lead, which is not my, I showed up and they were like, yes, okay, we'll give you a shot. But they gave me a shot, right? So they own some of that credit. The other thing is that the leaders that I've had, I've always been part of a hierarchy, right? I'm not the lone leader. In certain perspectives, you look like you're the top of the hierarchy, but really, in a big company, you're one of many layers of the hierarchy, right? When I am left to lead and to drive change in the organization, it's also because that the leader above me has given me the bandwidth and the ability to do that, the freedom to influence and change the organization and do what I think is best, right? So in a lot of ways, that's not necessarily given. That's not necessarily like something I created. That's something that somebody else has given to me. So this whole idea of like the people say we did it ourselves, yeah, because the environment was created and you were given the latitude to be able to do it yourself, right? To be able to use the power bestowed upon you from the leader above you, who has enough knowledge of self to realize that for you to be able to thrive is to give you that space and time and that ability to do that. So yeah, when you think about I did it myself, it's like, it's so true. And I do see that too in a lot of my my teams, right? Because part of what I focus on is building empowered teams, right? So teams that are of people that feel like they can go out there and make decisions and do the right thing and drive the change themselves. Because in the end, what you don't want to do in a leadership role is create a dependency on the sole leader. Because if something were to happen to me or whoever, right, whoever the leader is in the hierarchy, then the team starts to collapse when that person's not available, or there's something going on, or that person for some reason just moves on, or for God forbid dies, right? So if you create that environment where the team depends on the single leader to succeed, then the second there's a mishap, the team fails on high, right? So the idea is to create empowerment and leadership at every level of the organization, including at the bottom, or at the, I would call it the top. Actually, it's if you look at servant leadership, you think about it in terms of the pyramid's upside down, so the hierarchy is like this, right? So every higher level leader is actually serving the layer below it, right? So if you're in our hierarchy, we have the supervisors, the ops manager, and then the general manager, and so as the general manager, right? So I'm serving the ops managers. I'm serving everybody, right? The ops managers, the supervisors, and the frontline staff. And so every concurrent layer is serving down the line, right? And again, when every leader's creating the environment for the layer down line from it to succeed, then the layer down line, if they're not aware of what's happening, will say, well, we did it ourselves. The leader didn't do anything. That's why leadership is so critically important in organizations. And I think many people underestimate what a leader is and what they actually do. And there's a lot of good and bad leaders out there, right? So it's and some of us have had some of those bad leaders. So it's hard to say, hard to know how important leadership is. Let's just go through the River Masters kind of breakdown of this. The highest were true gentlemen, supreme rulers of highest antiquity. They had no name, but an abundance of natural simplicity. And I think these are the folks that again understood how to be empty, how to not hold ego, right? Not focus on ego, and to allow kind of things to flow naturally, and to give people that space. Their subjects did not know of them directly, but they sensed their existence somewhere high above. Beneath them were the Taoists, loved and praised for their inner power, true benevolence. But these again were rulers feared for devising harsh laws and punishments. And actually, if you think about this actually happens a lot in my experience of the organization that I'm a part of, is that as and I had come up through the ranks in this organization. So I was a supervisor, I was an ops manager, now I'm a general manager. And so watching that evolution, and if I think back to when I was a supervisor, I was definitely in this ruler category, this feared for devising harsh laws and punishments. It felt like that's the only way I could lead initially. And then as I matured in my experience of leading people, I started to realize that there's a balance to that, right? There's sometimes where you have to hold the line. There's sometimes where you have to be a confidant or listen and try to help coach and mentor, and so there's a lot of different aspects of leadership beyond just being the boss, right? So but that happens as time goes on, as you mature. You don't necessarily know that right out of the gate. At least I didn't. I wasn't really taught or trained how to be a leader. I took a lot of that on my own, but it takes time to develop that, and that's what's happening, right? So if you go to every next layer of each of the hierarchy, you see these different kind of levels of maturity, almost, is what it is. When an inferior ruler lacks good faith, subjects in their turn deceive their ruler and are devious. It's so true. If you don't have trust in your people are not going to have trust in you, and they're going to try to fool you, right? The Taoist rulers of antiquity were never far from the Tao. Whenever something was accomplished, there was great peace and contentment throughout the land, and the folk proclaimed, "We did it ourselves." And this is the best part, right? And I've seen this where frontline staff say, "We did it ourselves. We didn't need the leaders." It's just so exciting to see that, because you realize as the leader that you were part of that process of creating the space for them to be successful, giving them the tools, creating the environment they needed to be successful, giving them the targets and the directions so they could be successful. And so often they think that they're all this just happened magically. In some ways, for them, and maybe it feels that way. But as the higher level leader and seeing the larger picture, you know what it took to actually create that success. And so the final line of the River Master's commentary was, "They were oblivious of the simple strength of their ruler's inner power." So true. Hey, this was chapter 17 of the Tao Te Ching. Hopefully you got a lot out of this. If you did, like and subscribe to the channel. Again, the Boundless Sovereign YouTube channel. We are here to hold the mirror up for you so you can see yourself clearly and help to get you to a point where you have inner alignment. And when you have inner alignment, then you can go out into the world and do positive things and have a ripple effect with the people around you. So anyways, that's it for chapter 17. We'll see you guys all in chapter 18 of the Tao Te Ching.